as well as anyone else that may have joined us late so that they can see who you are. Vanessa, there she is. We can't hear you.
Sorry, Sylvia. When you said Vanessa, I just started recording because I thought that was. Yeah.
It's
Hi.
okay.
Hi, I'm Lady Vanessa Reyes. I'm Program Specialist for Resource Assistance Program. And I am seated at Washington, D.C., but currently in New Jersey. And I help Sylvia with everything onboarding, orientation, and RN engagement.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, Vanessa's my right hand. And we also have Dawn Meyer. I want her to introduce herself as well. She's kind of officially, unofficially on our Washington office rap staff. She has another position as well, but she's definitely with us as well. Dawn?
Yeah, thanks, Sylvia. Dawn Meyer here, Eastern Region. I'm the Volunteer and Service Program Coordinator for Region 9, but I've also been helping assist the RA team at the Washington office with all things RAs. So, yeah, thanks.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dawn and Vanessa. So yes, I could not manage such an amazing and large program at this level without the support of Dawn and Vanessa. So I really appreciate them and just wanted them to introduce themselves again, more so for the newcomers so that you know who else you can go to for anything that you may need. All right, so at this time, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Again, first, I'm going to start this off by going through the federal resume guide that I shared with you guys before. We're going to walk through that, and then we're going to go through some other things, and then we'll go through our exercise. So I'm going to go ahead and share screen. All right, and Vanessa, let me know that you can see this.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. All right, so as you can see, this federal resume guide does say Eastern and Southern region. The reason why is because I have adopted this from that recruitment team. But prior to this position, I was on the Southern region recruitment team before they combined, and we created this resume guide, myself and Michaela Hall. And so they have now since combined with Region 9, created a Region 8, Region 9 recruitment team. So there are some changes to this. But because I helped create it, I feel as though I can continue to use it. So we're going to go through this guide. You may have seen this before. If not, if you don't have this guide, we will share it out or it will be added to that folder that everyone should have access to. If you do not have access to the folder, please let us know and Vanessa will make sure that she will give you access to the folder or give you the link so that you'll have it. So we're just going to scroll on past this, but well, I'll stop here. If you want to be connected to the Region 8, Region 9 recruitment team, you can email them here, but I'll also share out the other regions' recruiters' information as well later on. So we're going to go through the checklist. So yes, there is a difference between a regular resume and a federal resume. Some of the main differences is that with a federal resume, there is no page limit. So you are able to really hone in on all of your experiences that you have, whether it's from a real job where you were paid, an internship, unpaid, if you did some study abroad, if you were a teacher assistant, anything that you've ever done that you feel like will qualify you for a position, you are able to add it to your federal resume to give you that experience that you need to qualify for a position. So it's all about how you articulate that on your resume. So we want to make sure that we kind of really think back on everything that you've done, everything that you've been exposed to, all of your experiences, and make sure that we build out your federal resume to make sure that you really do compete well and qualify for the job that it is that you are interested in. So that's one thing. There is no page limit. With that, because there is no page limit, you don't have to get creative in the way of having these boxes and circles and different colors and all these weird things on your resume. We like a really clean, consistent, concise, structured resume. We don't need all the, again, different fonts and different colors and all of that because there is no page limit. And again, you want to be very detailed, very thorough with your federal resume. A lot of times with those regular resumes, because of you are needing to keep it between 1 to 2 pages, you try to get straight to the point and just use quick words. We don't want quick words. We want you to be very thorough. Tell us what you did, how you did it, what you used to do it, and like I said, what you accomplished. And so we're gonna again go through this checklist. So looking at the resume overview, making sure that one font is used. Again, don't utilize so many different fonts. Making sure that your resume is easy to scan. So make sure that your spacing is clear and consistent. Make sure that you're using 11 or 12 font, nothing smaller. We have the ability to zoom in, but there are some more seasoned employees that may not have that functionality. So make sure that your font size is 11 or 12. You're going to want to limit the use of bolding and underlining those key headers and stuff because, again, there's no page limit. You don't have to just pop things like that. So there's going to be a way to kind of differentiate your different sections. So, again, make sure you kind of limit that bolding and underline. I already talked about how the resume is not limited to a single page and it can be as long as you need it to be. However, with that being said, just because there is no page limit does not mean that you should fluff up a resume to make it long. If there is a resume that's super long, but the information is not relevant or it's not tailored to that job, it will be looked at as, a not good resume instead of a good resume. So again, you want to make sure that it is tailored, it is experiences that you have had, and you're not fluffing it just to make it a long resume. You want to make sure that your use of acronyms is limited and making sure that you spell out what the acronym is the first time that you use it. You do not want to assume that whoever's going to be reviewing your resume will know and understand those acronyms, even if it is even if it's a very well used, a very well known acronym within your field. You still never know who's going to be on those job panels. A lot of our positions in the agency, when we are ready to fill them, there's going to be a hiring panel. And those hiring panels, especially at the district level, can consist of various program managers from the office. So if you are engineering, you're applying for an engineering position at like a district level, you could potentially have an archaeologist looking at your resume, a recreation specialist, a ranger, you could potentially have a forester looking at it. And so they're not going to always understand and know what those engineering acronyms are. So again, just an example. So again, make sure that you limit that use of acronyms and making sure that you spell that stuff out and really explain what it is that you are trying to explain. If it's a program that you are utilizing, make sure that you provide enough information so that they know exactly what that program is and how it relates to your experience or your job. You want to make sure again that it is tailored and you want to have multiple resumes. So I always encourage people to have a master resume. That master resume is going to have everything that you have ever done professionally wise on your resume. So again, your study abroad, if you grew up in a family business and you have been working in that family business for many, many years, put that experience on there. And the reason why you want to have a master resume is because as you apply for jobs, you're going to want to tailor your resumes. And so with this master resume, that's the one that you're going to always add to, and you can create resumes from that master resume so that you don't have to continue to, make changes to one resume. And it's always best practices to have multiple resumes anyhow, especially if you are trained or have degrees in multiple fields that may not be the same. So if you have experience in field positions and then you have some admin experience and whatever those are, and if they're totally different, maybe you had some education experience and now you're trying to go into the scientific field or whatever that might be. If those fields are totally different, make sure you have separate resumes. And yes, you can use some of the information that can potentially go with both the resumes, but some of the other information may not be needed on one, but the other one it may be. So you want to just use those different resumes and tailor them to those different jobs that you might be interested in and might be applying for. And the last 2 points that we have on here, always make sure that someone is reviewing your resume, checking for the spelling and grammatical errors that you might have. It's always good to get more eyes on your resume because as you build out your resume, you start to look at it, your eyes can get a little crossed. You might miss over some of those misspelled words or grammatical errors. So it's always good to have another set of new eyes on your resume. And then the last thing is a person not familiar with your occupational background would be able to understand what you do and why it is important. So just making sure that you really are thorough, again, with your experiences, your exposure, and what you're kind of trying to get across. So before I talk about the header section, I want to go ahead and address cover letters. So in the federal government, cover letters are suggested, but they are not required. So it's totally up to you if you would like to utilize a cover letter or not. But again, it is not a requirement. They are suggested, but not required. Now, I will say that sometimes when you apply to certain or respond to certain outreaches or certain jobs, they might ask you to provide a statement or a cover letter. So if they do, then you should definitely respond with that statement or with that cover letter. But if you are just applying for a position, in most cases, it's only suggested and not required. And the last thing that I'll say about a cover letter is that, if you have some things in your resume that may be questionable, then that's where you really want to use that cover letter. So let's say that there was a break in your education or a break in your experience, then you might want to use that cover letter to explain something that might be questionable on your resume, because on your resume you won't be able to explain that kind of thing on your resume. And a lot of times your resume, your cover letter might be the only opportunity that you have to make a difference, with a hiring manager. So it's a lot of times your interview before your interview, your first impression. So make sure that, again, if there's anything questionable, then yes, go ahead and use that cover letter to try to explain and to just share and show your personality and your passion in that cover letter, so that when they read through your resume, they can connect those dots and it can make sense to them. So looking at the header, you're going to want to make sure that you have your name and your address, all of that personal information up there at the top. You want to make sure that it's very clear and concise. Making sure that your name is the biggest thing on the resume. Make sure that email address is professional. A lot of times, those that have graduated from university will continue to use your university email address, and that is okay. Sometimes some universities will expire your email address will expire after a number of years after being removed from the university. So if that is the case, then you're going to want to use a email address that will continue to follow you. So if you have a Gmail or I was going to say Hotmail, but I don't know if people really use Hotmail anymore. But whatever you might have that's not related to your university, you're going to want to use that. The other thing that I will go ahead and address, because it's usually a question, is if you should use your Forest Service email address, your USDA one that you have now. Yes, you can. However, again, depending on if you're going to leave the agency for a little bit after you get your certificate and come back, or, there might be a potential break in your service. And so you don't want your resume floating around and being circulated, and it has your work email address that you no longer have access to. So again, to be on the safe side, I always encourage people to just use your own personal email address for your resume. And make sure, again, that it is professional. You'd be very surprised some of the email addresses that we have seen on resume. So make sure it is professional. Going into your professional summary and skills, this section is optional. When you think about this section, it can be titled as a summary, skills, introduction, objectives, whatever you want to call it. You can have this section, but it is optional. If you are going to have this section, make sure that you really are using this and maximizing it. Make sure that, like I said, if this is considered like your elevator speech, so make sure that you are really highlighting and pinpointing those specialized skills or, certificates that you might have, or whatever it is that you want to get across, whatever that position might be, whatever that hiring manager has deemed as a specialized skill or skill set that they're looking for. You're going to want to use that section for that. But if you don't have anything like that, it's okay. You do not have to have this particular section. But if you do have certain certifications that you think would be very beneficial and would be a highlight and really set you apart, then yeah, go ahead and have that stuff right up there at the top so they can see it, and it really will entice them to want to continue to read through your resume and find what other experiences that you might have. So we're going to go into the work experience section. This work experience section is where you're going to want to talk about the duties, your responsibilities, your accomplishments, the things that you have done in your various positions. And you really want to look at it from a quantitative, qualitative standpoint. We love to see numbers. So again, as an example, I was a forester. So when I was a forester, I talked about how many acres I was responsible for, providing inventory on, right? So if you're in the field, think about the acres or how many surveys you completed, or if you are in an admin position and you worked on different briefing papers or you created certain documents, talk about how many documents you've done within a quarter or what those documents are. Don't just say that you were responsible for creating a briefing paper. For who? Was it for upper level management? Was it for your regional forester? All of that can make a difference because there's definitely different levels of leadership in the agency and the things that people might be responsible for. And all of that is really great to see. And it shows your level of expertise and when you start to use stuff like that. And again, we talked about being very thorough in your experiences and the things that you are sharing. You want to make sure that your experiences are in reverse chronological order, making sure that you have your most recent and current experiences first, followed by your previous experiences. In that section, you want to make sure you have your job title, the name of your company, where it was, the dates that you worked. Stay away from the seasons such as summer and fall. The reason why is because when HR looks at your resume, they're going to need to know exactly how long you were in a position to see how you are qualified. A lot of the positions that we have requires one to be in a position for a year sometimes, depending on the position. And so if you use summer, they don't know if that was just the month of July or if it was May through August. In a year, when you're talking about your different experiences, you want to also make sure you list your work per week. If you have been in a position maybe prior to this RA-ship where your hours kind of fluctuated, that's okay as well. You can put a range. So if you work 20 to 30 hours per week, it's okay. Just list 20 to 30 hours per week. And then last but not least, you're going to want to make sure you also provide your supervisor name. And you want to add this even if they are also going to be listed at the bottom of your resume as a reference. You still want to list your supervisor name with that particular job. And you're going to want to also add if it's okay to contact them or not okay, or if you want them to contact you first. And I understand that for some of you, you may feel like it might be a bad look for you to say not okay to contact me first, but it's not. What would be the bad look is for you to not have it at all. This is one of those things that will be required for you to have on your resume. So you want to make sure that you have it. In the case where that supervisor may not be working there any longer, or maybe the business is closed, still put that information, and then you can just kind of add a note there, retired, or company is no longer in business, or whatever the case might be for that situation. But either how, you're going to go ahead and make sure you add that. So going on through the other sections, this is going to be your volunteer related experiences section. This is the section where you might have got some experience. Maybe it was the family business that you grew up assisting, or some work that you did in the community, or that study abroad. This is the area where you want to really highlight those other experiences that are also going to help qualify you for a job. Remember, I talked about how all experiences count. So HR will be able to combine experiences to give you the year that you might need to qualify for a position. So as an example, in your RA-ship, let's say you were in this position for 8 months or 6 months, but you also did some volunteer work for 6 to 8 months. Then HR, as long as you have all the necessary information as far as those work dates, hours that you work per week, HR will be able to combine your experiences and show that you are indeed qualified for the position at the appropriate GS level. So we want to make sure that you give yourself enough credit for those, even if it was a course. So as an example, again, as a forester, when I was in school, my university required me to do a course at the end where I had to work with a private landowner and build out a plan for his land, and it was a real experience. The same thing that I would be doing in a real job. And so working with this landowner, going to his property every day, doing inventory and building out his project plans, that was really experience. So I was able to put that on my resume, even though it was in a class, and I got experience, and that counted towards my experience to qualify me for the GS level when I was graduating. So again, just using that as an example. So just again, make sure you have all of that relevant information. You want to highlight your leadership and your special recognition. So if you achieved any awards, if you were participating in any groups or teams, clubs, organizations, if you're the president of an organization, make sure you list that stuff. And it doesn't have to be just related to school. It could be within your community. So if you are a part of any community organizations, make sure that you add that stuff as well. Even now, if you have joined the Forest Service and you are part of any special groups within the agency, make sure you add that stuff. It's always really great to highlight, especially if it's a group that promotes diversity and inclusion. That really stands out. Next, we're going to talk about your training and certification section. So with this section, you really want to make sure you highlight and list out all of your trainings and certifications that you might have. And a lot of times they get the questions of, what if my certificate or training has expired? That's okay too. Still list it. The reason why is because we have several different trainings that may only require a refresher and not necessarily a need for you to take a full-blown course again. So if you list that course that you've already taken and received a certification in, and you only need a refresher, then that looks better to a hiring manager than someone that needs a full-blown training and, a new introduction to that. So make sure you list those trainings and go ahead and add those dates so that one will see if that certificate or that training has expired or if it's still current. And in this section, it can be anything as far as it could be CPR, first aid, defensive driving, ATV, UTV, anything that you've done, GIS training, all of those trainings are relevant. So you can list all of that stuff there. So we're almost done with the checklist. The last two sections we're going to talk about is your education section. Now, your education section, even though it's listed as number 8 here, it can very well go first before your work. The reason why is because this section is so important, but such a small section as well. So in your education section, you want to make sure that you list your degree, what type of degree it is, your university, the location of your institution, and the dates of completion. And it doesn't have to be the exact date. It can be, May 2022 or December 2022. Just make sure that you have at least the month and the year that you completed it or that you will complete that degree. And then also your GPA. If you had a good GPA, go ahead and list it. If you didn't have it, I wouldn't list it. If they need it, let them go find it on your transcript. So totally up to you if you want to have it. Sometimes they will require it, but that's why it's really important for you to read through the job announcement to make sure if it's a requirement or not. If it is, then you're going to want to go ahead and list that on there. So the last section is going to be your references. You want to have 3 to 5 professional references. I know a lot of times people say, can I have a personal reference? Only if they ask you for a personal reference. Most times they won't, because we really only use those professional references. You really want someone that can speak on your professional behalf, someone that can talk about your skill sets and the way that you adapt to working in team environments, or maybe working as an individual and your independency, someone that can talk about how you show up to work. Your references are very important. So you want to make sure that they are your biggest professional cheerleaders. And you're asking and listening to someone that can really speak on your behalf to really help you get a job. Because a lot of times references can be the make and break of you receiving an opportunity or not. And you want to make sure that you let them know that you're listing them. When you know that you are going to be applying for positions or that you are sharing your resume, go ahead and call those references up and say, hey, this is Sylvia. Remember I worked with you as an intern then during my summer years. And remember I worked on that wildlife project with you. We were able to accomplish X, Y, and Z. I listed you as a reference. So when you're called, if you could speak to that project and how I was instrumental on that project with you, I really appreciate it. So you have to remember that a lot of times there's a lot of interns, a lot of employees that come and go out of different companies or organizations, and you're not the only one that they've worked with. So it's not to take away from what you are able to accomplish and the value that you added, but it's just to give them a quick reminder of who you are and what you were able to accomplish so that, again, they can put their they can, really provide a really great reference for you. And while we're on it, as much as I would love to be each and every one of your references, I cannot be a reference because a lot of you I have not personally worked with, so I can't really speak on your professionalism, your work ethic, and what have you. But again, I would love to if I could, but I can't. And I only said that because I get asked that a lot. But go on down. So before I jump into these examples, I'm going to take a quick pause and see if there are any questions. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second, come back on camera, and see if there's any questions. It looks like we do have some. So before I go to the chat box, looks like I have a hand raised from JC. If you want to go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, I also put my question in the chat.
Okay.
But I was wondering if when you say put your address, if you mean your full address or if just the city and the state is good.
Yeah. So I would say the city and the state is good. Again, like I said, you want to always make sure you read through the announcement because sometimes the different announcements will say something different. So if it does ask you for your full address, then you want to provide it. But in most cases, you can just list like the city and state. You don't really need your full address. That's PII and not necessarily needed. Okay, don't see any more hands, so I'm gonna go to the chat box. Okay, Chaz needs access to the folder. Looks like Vanessa shared that. Is there a guide specific for no? So Marissa, there's not a guide specific to any other regions. The reason why that one had that regional information on it is because that regional recruitment team created that one. But the information is consistent across the agency. So there's not one specific to other regions. If there is, you want to connect with that recruitment team, but not all regions have recruitment teams either. Yes, Anthony, you receive all of the documents that I will share today, including other documents. It looks like Vanessa did that. Okay, just scrolling through the chat. Would it be feasible to have a research experience section if we assisted professors in research endeavors? Great question, Anthony. So I get asked that question a lot about when it comes to research, because a lot of you have participated in different poster presentations or, you have assisted with different articles or inserts. And so when it comes to research, it really just depends on the position that you're applying for. If you are applying for another research position or something related, then yes, list it all. But if you're not applying for something that's related to research and it's just another field position or something, then you may not need to list all of those. And especially depending on how many there are, because I have seen some research resumes and they have did like 50 presentations and all of these inserts and articles. And again, there is no page limit. However, you don't want to have a bunch of pages of just like article titles and stuff like that. So if you are applying to a research or scientific type position, then yes, list all of that stuff out. If you are not applying, then you can just have a section that says, that you have assisted with, 8 articles or professional, what do they call them? Professional, drawing a blank. But if your article or your insert is going to be some type of in some type of publication, you can just say that you had 8 of those or 10 of those, or you could say that you presented at 10 poster presentations at a conference. So you don't have to list all of them. So it really just depends, Anthony. Hopefully that answer kind of helps you. So I would say it just depends on if you are applying to a science or a scientific or a scientist or a research position, or if you're just applying to a regular position, then you can list the stuff, but you don't have to really list them all individually. Okay, Jason was just providing. What is a good GPA? I would say a good GPA is anything with above a 3.0. 3.5 is and higher, of course, is excellent, but at least a 3.0. If it's less than a 3.0, I maybe would not add it to my resume unless it's required. If it's required, then you got to have it. But if it's not, then don't worry about it. Does membership in a honor society help? Yes, that always helps, and that looks good. Yes, I said the same thing, Anthony. So only include some publications if you have some. Yeah, it just depends. Anthony, like I said, I know there's different things that people within the research or scientific or scientists feel that you guys do. So it just depends. But yeah, if you have those publications and stuff, you can list them by title. If it's a research, but if it's not research, then I wouldn't spend the time listing every single titled publication and stuff like that. Yeah. Take one more question, and I'll go back to the share my screen. For volunteer work, do we need to list hours per week? Yes, you still want to list your hours. You still want to list, you don't really have to list the supervisor for your volunteer work. You can if you want to. You don't really have to have it for that one. It's more so important for your true work experience section, but you definitely want to list your hours per week, and you want to list that your dates. Again, because HR is able to use that to combine those experiences at your other one, you want to make sure that you have your dates so that they can see how much you were working there. All right, I'll take one more question. Anthony's question will be the last one, and then I'll come back for questions. If we were a field technician for our research professor, how would we list that work or volunteer? I was paid. So where it says volunteer, you don't have to list it as volunteer. You can say related experiences if that. So related experiences will kind of take away kind of the volunteer stigma that of unpaid work. So you can definitely just list it as related experiences and then list out what that work experience was as that field technician for your university. And you can also like list it once you put related experiences, you can list out that university name. So I'm just going to use my university. I would put Alabama A&M University, and then I would put whatever class that was or whatever that whatever the name of the class was. And then I put, if I had a title like field technician, I put field technician and then list out those duties. And again, talk about my 10 to 15 hours if I did that. And again, those dates that I was doing it. All right, so I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go through these examples and then I'll pause again for questions. And after that, we'll go through the exercise. So I'm gonna go back off screen and go back to sharing. All right, so Vanessa, let me know if you guys are able to see my screen again.
Yep.
Perfect, thank you. All right, so example number one, Smokey Bear Jr. This resume has the information up here at the top, and it starts with a career summary. You want to make sure that you have a really good, strong career summary. Some of the things that I quickly pick up from this, forestry technician, 3 seasons, designing, implementing successful strategies, organizational safety goals, relationship building, working collaborative with teams and partnering in public. Those are some things that I really picked up really quick without reading that word for word. So that's what you want to have here. You're going to have a summary or objective or intro, making sure that you have some words that will be pickup words for a hiring manager, someone that is kind of scanning through your resume. These key skills, a lot of times people want to use key skills like great work ethic, or they want to use great communicator. Instead of saying great communicator, say verbal and nonverbal communication. Talk about what type of communication. And then with this person, they have problem identification and resolution, team development and empowerment, chainsaw use and safety. This kind of lets me know that this person is really great with working in a team or environment. They could also potentially be a leader from some of the key skills that they listed up here. So that's what you want someone to kind of take away from those key skills section. So looking at this work experience section, the first thing we want to pay attention to is this here. Their title, Forestry Technician Intern, GS 0462. That's that series that I talked about back at orientation. And then they are a GS 5. You will not have this, and that is okay. You're going to have an equivalent to this, but you will not have a GS level or a GS or a series. So don't worry about that part. Then they have May 2019 through present. USDA Forest Service, Cherokee National Forest, Ocoee Ranger District, 40 hours a week. Their supervisor is RecTech Bev, phone number, email address, contact me first. All of that is perfect. If you work for the government and you have all this, great. If you don't have this, that is fine. As long as you list who you work for, you have your title, your dates, and your hours that you work per week, that is perfect. The way this resume here is structured by specialized skills or certain things that they want to highlight, such as the strategic planning. So they're applying for a position, and that position that they're applying for require a person to do some strategic planning. They have already highlighted, so someone could go straight to this section, what in their experiences of that particular position allowed them to do strategic planning. Same as the project management. They talked about all of their project management experience while in this position. The next section was their special projects. They highlighted their special projects and how they did a 2-week assignment working in public affairs. So all of that is great. So this is just showing you different ways that you can set up your resume. Here's their next job. Again, forestry technician intern, 0462 GS4, May 2018 through August 2018. USDA Forest Service, Cherokee National Forest, Watauga Ranger District, 40 hours a week. Their supervisor, phone number, email, okay to contact. Again, breaking it up in sections, talking about their wildland firefighting experience, and then talking about their training. So again, we won't go through all of this word for word, but other things I want to highlight is, remember when I talked about being very thorough, talking about what you did, what you used to do it. Check this sentence out. Use a variety of specialized tools, including the McLeod, Pulaski, shovel, drip torch. You may not know what that is, but if you were a forestry technician or in the fire world or applying to a fire job, they're going to know what that is, right? So highlighting whatever tools or programs that you have experience with and that you use to get your job done in that experience. Even this weekly workshops attracted 20 to 30 participants each session ranging from ages of 5 through 70 years old. So this shows that this person has the ability to provide a workshop that is available for folks at really any age range, from kids to elderly. And they are used to a range of 20 to 30 participants. So it just kind of shows their experience level when it comes to communicating verbally and being able to put on a workshop and facilitating and stuff like that. So perfect. So I'm just going to scan through the rest of this. I'm going to go on past that, get to your volunteer section. But remember, I also said you can call this related experiences or additional experience. It really doesn't matter what you title it. Recreation Crew Intern, June 2016 through August 2016. Green and Youth Foundation, Cherokee National Forest, 40 hours a week. Their supervisor was Sasha Reed, and Sasha has retired. Again, the same way, coordination, communication, highlighted just those particular areas. Special recognition, they have their awards here where they received it, the years, their specialized training, S-130, 190 basic firefighter, USDA Forest Service 2016, with all of their other trainings, their education, the Bachelor of Science, Natural Resource Management, Wildfire University, 3.75 GPA, Chattanooga, Tennessee. References, who they are, who they work for, their email, their phone number. Scrolling on down, going to the example number 2. Smokey Bear Jr., again, biggest words on the resume. They have their personal information here. And as you notice in this resume, there is no section for the summary. There is also not a skills section. They go straight into their work experience. And I won't go through it again word for word, but just highlighting that even though it's formatted a little different, the information is the same. So they have their title, they have their dates that they work, they have the USDA Forest Service, Cherokee National Forest, 40 hours per week. They have who their supervisor was and contact me first. And this particular example is set up in bullet form, right? So they're not really highlighting a certain area of experience or skill set, but they are now just doing it bullets. So with the bullets, you can have 2-liners, 3-liners, 4-liners. It really doesn't matter. Totally up to you how you want to put it. All that matters is what you're saying and if you're being thorough and really talking about your experiences and your accomplishments. So I'm going to scroll on down again, same information. Everything's still looking pretty good, pretty concise, very clean. Gonna keep on scrolling. Volunteer experience, recreation crew intern, Green and Youth Foundation, Cherokee National Forest, June 2016 to August 2016, 40 hours a week. Listed their supervisor, their experiences still in bullet form, special recognition, trainings and certification, education, references. All right, and then the last one, federal resume example number 3, Smoky Bear Jr. again. We now have another professional summary, work experience, information is still the same up there at the top. And then this resume is in paragraph form. So again, this is okay too, to have it in paragraph form. Just make sure that you are still allowing your buzz and keywords to pop. You don't want to make it seem like you're writing an essay or a paper. So making sure that you really break this up and you're able to just highlight those buzzing keywords. So some of the things that stick out to me: silviculture examination, timber stand improvement, reforestation activities. Let's see what else. Capturing notes in accurate and logical manner. Distribution of filing and making updates. Timber stand management projects. COR, reviewing standard contract clauses. Those are some things that highlight to me if I'm just doing a quick scan. Because you have to remember, a lot of times your resume is just going to be a quick scan. So again, just kind of going through this, the information is still the same. Everything's still in paragraph form. There's your volunteer experience section, special recognition, training, education, references. One thing I want to go back and highlight, the last resume guide that I was using, which was just the one that I helped create for Region 8, I had made changes to this guide to reflect a resource assistant. But with this new one, they didn't change it. So before I send this back out, I'll make the changes so that you guys don't forget, and then we'll reshare it. But I want to kind of highlight how you would do this for your resource assistance position. You're going to want to make sure that your partner name is there. So Green and Youth Foundation, Mobilize Green, Hispanic Access Foundation, whoever your partner might be, you want to make sure you list the partner name, but also list out resource assistance program. Okay. So make sure that you list the program name out completely. Resource assistance program, Green and Youth Foundation, list out what your title was, and then where you're working, and so forth and so on. And the reason why that's important is because if you list that you are working for the Forest Service and you don't list that it was an internship through this program, they're going to be looking for certain things that you're not going to have, such as your GS level and your series. And again, that's what the difference is. You're not considered a federal employee, although you get federal experience. So you want to make sure that you tie in to your resume that this is through the Resource Assistance Program. So important that you have that, because people have in the past been disqualified for certain positions because they didn't have their GS levels and their series and all of that in a resume. But you guys don't need it, you don't have it, so make sure that you replace that information with put in resource assistant program. Okay. All right, so before we go into the exercise, I want to take a break from this and take any questions, and then we'll on to the other stuff. So I'm gonna stop sharing. I'm gonna go to the questions, chat box. All right, if there's any questions that you want to ask out loud, just go ahead and raise your hand and we can have you to unmute yourself. So I'm gonna go to the chat box. All right, Rohan, if you want to go ahead and ask your question while I'm also scanning the chat box.
Yeah, so for the resource assistant position, we don't need to put any sort of series at all associated with that. We just put resource program and what position we were interning for.
Yes, you just put your title and put resource assistant program. You don't have to. Now, sometimes people will put equivalent to GS4, GS5, but you guys really don't know that. And I can't go with, have a conversation with everyone to tell you what yours is. You can potentially ask your mentor what level of experience they are giving you in the work that you're doing. What would that kind of equate to? And you could put GS5 equivalent, but you don't have to put that. It's not a requirement, but it is required for you to have resources to program again, so that they know that this is not a permanent position in the federal government, but it is through a third-party internship program.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, I'm gonna go to chat or for against contacting this world may not be respected by certain reference checkers that lost people reports or just know each other and will call each other something to think about. Yes, so what Carly said in the chat box, yes, in the agency, sometimes people will definitely cold call someone because, we've worked in different places. Like if one of you are applying for a position of mine and I see that you work in Dane Boone and I used to work in Dane Boone, then I would probably call someone and just say, hey, how was Jane Doe, as an employee, and just to kind of get, their own opinion. And maybe they weren't your immediate supervisor, maybe they were a colleague of yours, and I'm just kind of getting an additional reference. However, it is still okay for you to put contact me first, and it's not frowned upon, you guys. We understand that people are moving from positions, sometimes they're changing occupations, and it's appropriate always to let your supervisor who you're currently working for know when you're applying for jobs. But just because you apply for a job or throw your name in the hat doesn't always mean you're going to be considered, right? So sometimes you want to make sure that you let your supervisor know when you truly are being considered, versus just saying, hey, I'm applying to this job, and you might not want to flag it for them unnecessarily. So just know that people understand that and we respect it. So it is okay for you to put contact me first, or that it's okay to contact them, or whatever your case might be. There's a lot of different circumstances and situations out there. Would it be job title and resources and program on one line and then partner and U.S. Forces below that? So, Marissa, great question. It really doesn't matter how you put it. You can put your job title and then USDA Forest Service, Mobilized Green Resources and Program, or you can put it in another order. It doesn't matter as long as you have it all and that you're consistent. Now, in your other jobs, if you put your employer first and then your job title, then just be consistent. But regardless of whichever you want to do, it's up to you. Just be consistent. Don't keep switching it from your different jobs. So that's all I would say is just be consistent. And no, resource assistant program would not be your job title. That's the program that you're in. All of you have your own job title. So put your job title and the program. For volunteer experience did not have consistent hours. It was just here and there. So Jason, you could just use a range. You can say 5 to 10 hours a week or 10 to 15 hours a week. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be exact. So you can definitely use a range. Rohan?
Have you seen more people describe their job positions in paragraphs or in bullet points?
Definitely not paragraphs. Most people don't use paragraphs. In my experience, in my years of reviewing resumes and all the hiring events that I've participated in, I mostly see bullets. That's the most common. Any other questions?
Oh no, I'm sorry. Let me put my hand down.
Oh. All right, so I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat box. I'm not seeing any more hands. 5-minute break, just so you guys can kind of get up, stretch your legs, go use the bathroom, whatever you might do. And then when you come back, we'll go through some examples for you guys to kind of critique. And I'll show you on USA Jobs how to find those buzz and keywords. And then we'll go ahead and end the session. So if you want to just kind of take a quick break, it's 3:04. Come back at no later than 3:10. So come back at 3:09, and I'm going to get started at 3:10 Eastern time. And we'll go ahead and, like I said, finish the rest of the session. So go ahead and take your quick break. If you want to stay on, that's fine. I'll still be here. But I want everyone to kind of take a quick break and run to the restroom or whatever you might need to do. So be back at 3:09 Eastern Time. All right, welcome back. Everyone back? All right, so we're going to show you guys this these descriptive words, and I'm going to pull up USA Jobs to show you how to find those buzz and keywords, and then we're going to go through these examples. So let me go ahead and share my screen. So this is another document that we will be sharing with everyone. These is just some descriptive words that can be used. A lot of times people use the same words, help, 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 assisted, 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 collaborated. But a lot of times you can't really think of other descriptive words that would be good for you to utilize throughout your resume to help you to enhance your experience and what you're trying to say. So we're going to share this descriptive word chart here with you so that you can, again, use some of these words and kind of really help to incorporate them into your resume to, again, highlight and emphasize your experience that you have. And so that's one thing. And then I'm going to share USA Jobs. All right, so next week you'll have a more in-depth presentation on USA Jobs. Today, I'm only showing you USA Jobs to show you how to find the buzz and keywords. All right, so I'm going to type in a random series. Let's see, let's do a 04. What we have the most of? We'll just do a 401. See what's back here. All right, I'm going to filter this down for the Forest Service. All right, let's see what we got. Oh, there's some high GS load position. There's a 9. All right, we'll do this one. Okay, so this is USA Jobs, and this is a position for a social scientist, biological scientist position. And I'm going to show you how to find the buzz and keywords to incorporate into your resume to enhance it and making sure that you're tailoring your resume. So you're gonna scroll all the way down till you get to duties. So there's gonna be 3 sections I'll show you. First is duties. So in this duties section, it's going to tell you exactly what this person is going to be doing in this position. So if you see that you have this same experience, that you've done this, that you've assisted with the development and processing of NEPA documents, guess what? You might want to put that on your resume, that you have knowledge and experience with developing and processing NEPA documents. And don't just leave it there. If you know what type of different NEPA documents there is, then you may want to go ahead and list out the exact type of NEPA documents that you have experience working with. So if you've done that, great. Listed those proposals, whatever those documents are. The other thing here, let's see what else we have. Analyze environmental data to measure and evaluate the effects of management proposals on natural, social, and economic resources. What you don't want to do is copy and paste the entire sentence, but pull out the buzz and keywords here and, make the sentence your own. So you want to kind of change it up a bit. Conduct environmental studies and evaluations concerning a variety of resources such as social, economic, land, air, water, timber, recreation, and so forth and so on. So this is one of those sections that you want to pull the buzz and keywords. And for me, the buzz and keywords here that I see are going to be, of course, NEPA, the National Environmental Policy Act documents, law, regulation, and policy that pops out. Analyzing environmental data pops out. Developing plans, conducting environmental studies and evaluations. What else pops out? Coordinating with natural resource specialists to obtain and compile and analyze information. Let's see. Guide standards and guidelines pops out. natural resource management proposal, environmental analysis and assessment, environmental impact statements, all of that pops out. So again, you can create it how you want, but pull out those buzz and keywords. The next section is going to be your qualification section. In this qualification section, this is your second place to find the buzz and keywords. So this section is going to tell you what it takes to qualify you for that position when you're looking at your education and your experience. So the experience part is what we want to what we're going to look for, and not just your experience, but your specialized experience. That's the one that's really going to help HR to qualify you for the job. So when you scroll down here, it's going to say, you know, experience, all your education stuff up here, and it's going to say or right here where it says or in this section, it's going to say an experience sufficient to. This last little sentence here, you can use some stuff there, but what you really want to pay attention to is the specialized experience part. So in here, let's find it for you. The specialized experience equivalent to a specialized experience is defined as, starting right here. So it says assisted in natural resource management activities, participating in natural environmental assessments, and drafting segments of environmental impact statements, and some more information. In the next section, same thing for the GS11. They can, you're going to look for a specialized experience again. Specialized experience is defined as, and then here it all is again. And the reason why they have it in the different sections is because this one is for the GS9 and this one is for the GS11. So it takes a year of experience to qualify you for the next level. So if you've been getting GS7 experience, then it tells you what you need to qualify you for the GS9. And the same thing for the GS11. So you're going to want to make sure that you have that specialized experience. And then, of course, for you guys, you're going to be at the 5 and 7 level. So you're going to want to make sure you look at the specialized experience at that level. So that's the second area. The third area that you're going to find your information is going to be down here in this how you will be evaluated section. So here it talks about how you're going to be evaluated. And it says that it's going to look at some of these competencies here, the oral communication, planning and evaluating, project management, public planning, technical competencies, technical writing, and your written communication. So these are the things that you really want to highlight in your experience on your resume. So going on down, this link here, you're going to click this and it's going to give you a snapshot of the application itself. So when you open that up, we're going to scroll down, I'm going to pass all of this. I'll go through all of this next week, but I just want to go to the what's important for your resume right now. We're going to go all the way down till you get to the assessment question. So starting here. So number 5 says participate in developing the unit program of work for all aspects or portions of the unit planning program. That you don't really have to look into the ABCs and the D's, those options. You just want to look at what's right by the number, because that's what you want to pay attention to. Participate in developing the unit program of work for all aspects and portions of the unit planning program. Review and coordinate annual operating plans and budgets. Conduct routine environmental studies and evaluations. So those are the areas that you want to look. And if you've done that, plug it into your resume, because when you start answering these questions, you know, they're going to want to match what your response is to these questions in your application to what's on your resume. So if you answer these questions and say you've had this experience, if you've done this, they're going to look for that on your resume. And if it's not there, then they're going to deem you ineligible or not qualified. So make sure, like I said, that you go through here and you find these areas that you can find those experiences that you've done. If you've done it, great. If you have not done it, please don't bluff. Please don't lie and say that you've done it if you haven't done it. The other thing that I'll say is that's important is that as you answer these questions, E has here that you are considered an expert or that you have supervisory performance. It doesn't mean that you are an official supervisor. It just means that you kind of monitored or overseen that particular task. So you're gonna want to make sure that if you say that you are responsible for developing the environmental analysis report concerning resource activities, and you taught somebody how to do it, or you had to monitor them, you want to say that you monitored the development of that, or that you assisted someone, or you taught someone how to develop that environmental analysis. So again, you want to make sure that you have these experiences, but however you're going to answer these questions is how you're going to want to have it on your resume, because being exposed to it or having the experience or the education or the training or training someone and monitoring someone is all totally different. Okay. So again, there was 3 areas. Who can drop me into the chat what those 3 areas are that that I just showed? I'll stop sharing my screen. So who remembers the 3 areas on the announcement that you can find those buzz and keywords for your resume? Anybody? Anybody? Anybody know 1? Anybody know 2? Specialized experience, yes, USA job listing, but where in the USA jobs? Duties, yep, that was 1. So the specialized experience was a part of a certain section. So what's that section that I talked about that I said to go to? Requirements. So under requirements, there's a certain section under requirements that I said to go to find those buzz and keywords. Qualifications, boom, there you go. So duties, qualifications, and then what's the last one? Anybody? How you will be evaluated. Good job, Jeffrey. So those are the 3 sections that you're going to want to look for on the announcements for your buzz and keywords. Duties, qualifications, how you will be evaluated. That is what's going to qualify you for that job. And a good rule of thumb or practice is for you to go ahead and find these jobs. Like if you know that you're going to be applying for a certain job, you're not going to apply right now, but you know it's out there. You can go ahead and find these jobs on USA Jobs, and you can go ahead and start tailoring and building out your resume before it's even time to be considered. All right, so now I'm going to share screen again, and I'm going to pull up some examples. Again, this is the time that I want you guys to be really interactive with me and point out some things. We're going to critique these resumes, and I really want to see how much you guys have learned and what you are picking up on. So you guys ready?
Yes.
All right, all right. Okay, so how we're gonna do this, I want you guys to maybe, come off of mute and just say it out loud, drop some stuff in the chat. I know it's a lot of you guys, but it's okay. We're gonna get through this as best we can in this virtual environment. So I'm gonna go ahead and share the screen now because I have this up. And before I show my screen, we're going to break it up in sections. So don't get it. Well, actually, let me go ahead and zoom in some more so you guys can see the whole thing. So we're going to break it up in sections. So the first thing I want you guys to do is pay attention to just the top part, the header and the summary only. Okay, header and summary only. All right, you guys should be seeing my screen. Let me pull this back down so I can see the chat box. Okay. Anything that pop out from the header or the summary only? Anything?
Too many colors.
Different colors. Good.
I would say the font.
The font.
Yeah, the font is really light.
Yep.
The size.
The size. The size of what?
The font.
The size of the font. Okay, so yeah, so you want your header for your name part to be big, but all the rest of it, you're right, does not have to be so large.
Not
All right,
uniform.
Not uniform. Things are different when
They have like August '15, and then they have fall 2017.
wait. Let's back up. We're not down there yet. We're only looking at it's okay. We're only looking at the header here and the summary before we move forward. Is that it? All you guys see?
Name should be bigger, and also that's not a very professional email address.
Catch me. Hey, I'll say it's not the worst one I've seen. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and go to the education section only. Education only. Anybody see anything here for education?
It's not
Raise
very
them up.
detailed.
The
Based
dates
in
are
the-
inconsistent.
Dates
It's out
are
of order.
inconsistent. Out of order. Okay.
Yeah, overall, the consistency is just really off.
No city, state, fall, summer.
There's an
Different font.
internship in the education section.
We have internship information in the education section. Yep.
For Bridgewater State University, don't know if that's like their master's program or like what they did while they were there. So that's confusing too.
Great, great, great. Good highlight there. We don't know what type of degree they received, if they even received one. Perfect. All right, we're gonna keep on going. Employment section, anything pop out to you guys there?
He has an activity that isn't technically part of employment.
And there's no like contact.
No contacts, yep.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Not very detailed either as far as like description wise.
Yeah. Mhm.
There's no job title, just the job name.
Yeah, just the name of the company or whatever.
Mhm. No hours, acronyms not spelled out, yep. No supervisor. No position, yep. Good. All right, and this is the end of the resume when you get to service. Anything down here or for the rest of the resume?
No references.
No references.
They didn't mention how many hours they worked during each of those times, you know? Like, what is summer 13? That can be 1 week or like a couple months.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
Their use of
Oh.
seasons, yep.
No specialized skills.
Hmm. Okay, good job, you guys. Good job, good job. All right, resume number 2. So with this one, let's just focus on from Jane Doe through the skills and expertise.
They put their work email, which they may not have access to when people are looking at this resume.
Mm-hmm. Anything else from anybody else? So one thing is that here,
He doesn't also have a really good another email just in case.
yeah, another email and whatever they were gonna put here, or maybe they just doubled this and didn't mean to, they kind of overlooked that. Okay, moving right along. Education only, education only. Anything hop out in the education part?
The font
Mm-hmm.
in all caps.
Yeah, I
Yep.
don't like when it's in all caps. Doesn't look good.
Yep, all caps.
There's not a range of dates of attendance. There's just 2020 and 2017.
It's not beginning to the end. Yeah, so for your education part, you don't really need the range. You at least just need the month and year that you finish or that you will finish. So you don't really need the range, but you do need like the month and the year. So what they're missing here is when they actually finished. So they have 2020, but we don't know if it was December, May of 2020 or 2017. And the reason why that's important is because when someone may be considering you for recent grad position, you apply for that, you have to be 2 years removed. You can only be up to 2 years removed to be considered a recent grad for the Pathways program. So little things like that is important for a hiring manager or someone to know if they want to consider you for a job. So definitely at least have your month and year. All right, so going along to your work experience section, anything here?
No supervisor.
Yeah, no supervisor.
Mm-hmm.
Still with the all caps and the bolds and the underlines.
Yeah. And the little breaks, I forget what those are called.
Didn't really hear that, Valerie. Oh, if you were saying something, I didn't hear you good.
Oh, sorry. I was saying that they didn't put in like a position. They just put in that they were researchers.
Right, they just have resource assistant. So with this, if they were using this area to highlight their resource assistant program, they forgot to put resource assistant program and they just left it at resource assistant. But it's important for you to make sure you have your title of your position as well as resource assistant program spelled out. All right, anything else in the rest of these duties? None of them are very descriptive.
Mm-mm.
Let's see. Doesn't seem very easy on the eyes. Yeah, you want your resume to be easily scannable, but when you continue to use a lot of bolding and have a lot of your letters pretty much the same. I'm gonna scroll here. Anything here in their teaching experience section?
They went from bullet points to paragraph.
It's also
Yep.
still out of order a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Definitely out of order. From this, they went back to the bullets. So all in all, the resume has not been consistent. Including duties just clutters the resume. Yeah, they really don't have to add this duties word in every section. So that's really not needed. Another thing here, 2018 through 2020, 2015 through present. Where are their months? They left out their months. So we have no idea exactly how long they were a trainee or how long they were a scholar. The summary subheading also says to dilute their bullet points. They may have been able to have stronger bullets if they hadn't summarized their experience already in the subheading. Yes, great point there, Carly. Let's scroll on down some more. International experience here, some of the same thing. We don't know if it was all in the same year. They don't have their year there. You don't want to assume. They have some volunteer experience. So they have a lot of stuff to add to a resume, a lot of experiences, a lot of opportunities and things they've done. But again, it's all about how you articulate it and how you format it on your resume is what's important. And then here they have their certifications and training. So they have their stuff listed and they have the years, which is great. They have their academic honors and grants. So this kind of shows you an example for, I forgot who is that asked about their about the I think it was Anthony that asked about scientific stuff or research stuff. So papers at conferences, they listed them there.
The same thing.
What was that?
It's also just this same presentation. They've just given it several times.
Yep, that is very true.
Yeah.
So what's missing?
References.
No references. Bingo, no references. All right, one last resume. Okay, so just looking at the title and education.
No location.
Yep, no location.
No location.
No address. City
No
and state.
address. All right, so going on to the general, they have general skills and then they have laboratory work. So we'll stop there. Anything you guys see here?
Bullets in one section and no bullets in the other section.
Yep. Mm-hmm. No skills section. There's a use of a lot of acronyms here too.
Yeah, it's very jargon heavy.
Yes, yes. All right, so now they're going to go into their work experience section. Anything here?
Still no job title.
No job title.
Yeah. I'll put the supervisor on the top.
Yep, they have the supervisor down at the bottom.
Yeah.
No hours listed. And they made this kind of seem like a sentence. Resource assistant through Hispanic Access Foundation and U.S. Forest Service. So it doesn't have to sound like a complete sentence there. You just list it out, resource assistant program, Hispanic Access Foundation, or whichever partner, and then the Forest Service and where they were working. So you said you see hours. Yeah. Okay. So yes, they do have the hours here, but it's kind of like they kind of hid it within their duties and responsibilities. So definitely want to make that more visible. So it's best to kind of have it up here to highlight it. All right. Some of the same things with this second job as well. We'll go on through that. Same thing. They kind of formatted the entire way with their hours and things at the bottom and their supervisor.
At
So
least they're consistent.
Yeah, they're consistent with that. All right, additional experience. Anything here?
incomplete sentences. It's just like one long run-on sentence with no real structure.
No.
True.
It
Yeah.
would work better as bullets.
Yes. Yes.
There's no reference or supervisor here.
Nope.
It's also out of date again.
Yep. Not in order. All right, they have their awards. Then they have presentations. And then what are they missing as well?
References.
References again. Your references are really important. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing that. Come back on camera. Okay, so just to kind of recap, we went through the resume guide, talked about what kind of goes into the resume, things that should be considered, how you should structure it, format it, what things should not be in your resume. We looked at USA Jobs and found some areas where you can find those buzz and keywords to plug in. We looked at some descriptive terms and words that you can use for your resume, as well as did the critiquing. So I think you guys were able to really look at it from a different lens, and kind of whenever you're critiquing a resume, it helps you to think about things that you may not have thought about for your own resume. So that was a good exercise for you guys to kind of look at it from a different lens and kind of point out and pick out some of those things, like I said, that we highlight that we know should or should not be in a federal resume. So see if there's any last minute questions before we end the session. So I see we have two. So for awards, if we got a scholarship through college, do we list the months and years, or are years sufficient? Yeah, the years are sufficient. You don't really have to drop, list out the actual dates, the real dates and months and et cetera for that. You can just list the years. Is the skills section required? So it's not required. If you want to have that skills section, you can have it. If you don't want to have it, it's not a requirement. Okay. Are there any other questions? Remember, you can come off of mute and ask your question out loud, or you can drop it into the chat box.
If say we were a president of a society, and we had that under special recognitions, would we list the months along with the years for when we were president?
Yeah, no, you don't really have to. When it comes to like special recognition, your closed organization, you don't really need, or it's not really a requirement, or you don't really necessarily need the actual months and the years. You can just put the years, because a lot of that is going to be associated to like a school year anyhow. So if you just kind of put that year, that should be fine. Anybody else? So how you guys feeling? Drop me some stuff in the chat to let me know how you're feeling about your resume. Do you guys feel a little bit more confident? Do you feel like, you know a little bit more than you did before? Let me know how you're feeling as you guys prepare your resumes now. Drop me some stuff in the chat. Drop me some takeaways. What are your takeaways from this section, from this session? We hear you, Carly. Details are important. You're welcome, Mandy. Make more edits, more confident. All the info just got to reformat to make it pretty. Feel
I have a
more
question,
prepared.
Sylvia.
Hi, Carly. Yeah, go for it.
Hi.
Thank you for your presentation. I do not specifically draw out my references in my resume because I include my supervisors and put a little asterisk next to them. Should I be specific with a section at the bottom? Like,
Yes.
definitely? Okay.
And
Thank
the
you.
reason why is because you don't want people to assume that just because someone was your supervisor, that they're also your reference. And then a lot of times, just because a person was your supervisor doesn't mean that you want them to be your reference. So instead of your supervisor being your reference, it could have been a colleague or a staff member, or someone that worked more closely with you than your true official supervisor. So that's the reason why that section is really important.
Follow up to that, is it like frowned upon to use the same people that I just put, or is that fine?
No, it's not frowned upon because, like I said, you know, a person could be your supervisor and they could be your reference, or they can just be your supervisor. But if you list them that say that, hey, this was my supervisor and they're my reference, then they're definitely going to be contacted. But I have been on a lot of different panels, and I have had some panel leads to tell us to just contact references only and don't call any supervisors. And if a person wasn't listed in both sections, then I didn't call them because my lead said only focus on the references. But then I've had some that'll say pick one supervisor and then call the other references. So you just never know who they're going to call. And again, you don't want them to assume. So whoever you truly want to be a reference, that's who you should list as your reference. You don't always have good supervisor for you. Yeah, some supervisors are not so great. Or some supervisors don't give the best reference. Like they might have been a good supervisor, but they may not have the best experience with you. You know, sometimes a supervisor might not see your day-to-day activities and the things that you are accomplishing, but your team lead or your colleague might see that on a day-to-day basis. I remember one position I had. My supervisor was split between two offices. And so she didn't see me every day. She was responsible for me and some other people. And so, you know, yes, she was my supervisor, but if I really wanted someone to speak to me showing up to work on time, or, you know, me being on time in meetings and how I presented myself professionally in my attire every day and just my work ethic, she couldn't speak to that. So, you know, like I said, you really got to think about who's really going to be your best professional cheerleader, who's going to really give that best reference for you. And that's kind of, you know, who you're going to think about. Okay, sending it to more people. All right, so we're going to wrap this up, but I'm just going to ask one more time. Is there any last minute questions? Not seeing any. All right. Well, I really appreciate you guys showing up today to learn more about your federal resume, because it's going to be very, very important for you to understand really how to do this resume in order to be qualified by HR. Just because you have your Willy Wonka golden ticket does not mean you're going to be qualified and get a job. The resume is still just as important as if you were going to apply to USA Jobs. And a lot of times people don't think about that, but I've seen people be or attempt to be directly appointed into a position and they still don't get qualified. So this resume is very important. So work on it, get those buzzer keywords, use those descriptive terms, enhance that resume, make sure it's good to go, make sure it's tailored. And you guys should be good to go. Next week, we're going to dive into USA Jobs, your certificate, your hiring authorities, the hiring processes, all of that other stuff. So make sure that you guys join us again next week. You're welcome, Michael. Nails. Oh, thank you. My birthday was last week, so I got some birthday nails, and I did something a little different than, you can start recording, Vanessa. I did something a little different than I normally do because I'm really simple.